In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys all the settings I use personally for my Canon C70 and what are the settings you should use if you're planning on shooting videos with the camera. Hey guys, what's up? It's Rigo with Grizz Media and welcome to episode 7 of How to Think Like a Filmmaker. Today we're covering camera settings. Channel. Hello, my name is Rigo. I'm a photographer and videographer based on Los Angeles, California. And on this channel, we teach you all the things when it comes to filmmaking. Now, one important thing when it comes to filmmaking is knowing how to set up your device and knowing how to put the right settings to get the maximum out of your camera. Now, here with me, I have the Canon C70. This is with the most optimal firmware update, in case anybody knows, as of February 2025. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna dive deep into here, and I'm gonna show you the first setting that we're gonna do is we're gonna do what happens if you wanna shoot in full cinema mode. So here's our main menu for the Canon C70. If we're taking a look at some of the schematics right here, go into the menu system. So that's going to be right here. We click on this top button right here. You can see that I'm shooting at Super 35. I don't really have any other functions. We're shooting in C-Log 2 at 24 frames per second in raw light. There's some other sub-record formats that are not optimal to us. They're not open to us because we're shooting in raw. Now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go onto the menu. You can see I have my iris set to 1/3. There's nothing really you want to turn on here. You want to, if this is off, you want to turn on extended ND range. That allows you to go from all the way up to 10 stops of ND, which is going to be helpful when you shoot outdoors. The next thing you want to go is you want to go to second one, shutter mode. You want an angle, ISO gain, nothing really to change here. Your measurement should be standard for light metering. AE shift should be normal. AE response should be normal. Shockless white balance. AF mode. This is when you're shooting with the Canon C70 and you have a lens that can autofocus. You want to set it to continuous autofocus. AF frame, you want to set it to a whole area so it scans the entire view of what the sensor is looking at. That way it can pinpoint what to focus on. For your autofocus speed, I put +2 and +3. I found those to be the best settings for Canon lenses that are attached to the Canon C70. Those are going to be the most optimal for you. For face detect, you want it on. Face only. Eye detection, you also want that on. And now this is a very interesting setting right here. You want to press that. You can either have detect from face or head, or just detect from head. Now you can either use this to detect from head or you can use it to detect from face. Usually what I like to do is I find it better when we have it to detect to face, because if it looks behind the head, it can sometimes not register back of the head, and that just leads to a lot of confusion and you don't really want that. Nothing here for lens optical stabilization because our lens does not have that, so it will not show that. Next, we're going into our CP file. So when you're trying to shoot in the most dynamic range possible, you want to shoot in C-Log 2. You have the best possible color profile. You can see right here that we're able to shoot either in Super 16 or in Super 35 mode. I usually like to keep it at Super 35 mode. We also have that we're shooting, our frequency of our system is 59.9 Hertz. That's just the standard for our main recording format. You always want to shoot in RAW. That gives you the most flexible capability when you're out and about. This is going to give you the most flexibility in post to change your footage to whatever you want. Now if you look down here in frame rates, we actually can go all the way up to 60 frames per second on the Canon C70, but I like shooting in 24 frames per second. That's usually my standard and what I like to shoot at personally. And when I have channel 3 and 4 linked, they are separated, which means in post we are going to be able to capture the most amount of data with our audio and not be separated or together, because sometimes when you have clipping audio, it's not really useful for your post-production process. We have the audio recording. Channel 3 is automatic. Channel 4 is also automatic. Our input trimming, we don't have to touch none of this. For our mic input, it's a mic with a power supply. So that's if you have a mic attached to the Canon camera, like a boom mic, or if you have something with an XLR port, that's usually what you would connect to it. But because we don't have any of that now, we just keep it with the standard mic. For our tone, we got 1 kilohertz turn. For our headphone volume, if you have headphones plugged in, I like to keep it at 8. You can go all the way up to 15, but 8 is kind of what I like. If we're looking to the LCD brightness, I didn't really change the brightness. I did increase the luminance by 2. That is going to allow me to look at exactly what I have in frame and what I don't have in frame. So that's really good, especially when you're in a bright environment. You really want to have that at full power. Anamorphic lenses, but this is what you would go to if you were using anamorphic lenses and change these settings how you would like. All this is standard out of the box settings. You don't need to move any of this on this part of the waveform. Going on to our OSD display, once again, keep it how you would keep it right here. Tallies, once again, you don't really want to change anything. Everything is perfectly fine the way it is. And when you're using a LUT, you want to get it to BT709, which gives you the most range and the most fluidity when you're trying to color grade your footage. For peaking, you guys can see that we have the LCD on at the moment. We want to keep that on, and when you're clicking on peaking 1 or peaking 2, it tells you how bright the red image is going to look. So when you try to focus on something, it's going to show you what's in focus if it's glowing red. Magnification, we don't really have that turned on, but if you want to turn it on, you could. It allows you to see false color. We keep that off as well. For zebras, you want to keep it at 70 plus or minus 75%. Waveform on our LCD, we want it on, and so do we want it on for the HDMI if we have an external monitor connected to the camera. We have markers here for aspect ratio. I like to keep the aspect ratio 2.35 to 2.35 to 1 because I like shooting in that cinematic aspect ratio. And by increasing the aspect marker, you can make those black bars on the top and bottom more darker or not more darker. I like to keep it at 50% so that I know what is going to be in frame and what is not. All these other user interfaces we don't really want to touch. Network, I have it disabled at the moment, but I know that the C70 is able to connect to a network, so you would just simply enable it and then you would turn on the connectivity of your other device and the two will connect to one another. Here are some custom buttons that you can assign. Every button on the camera is able to be changed, so here is where you would change it. By simply clicking on one of the buttons right here, you're able to change a bunch of stuff. Now if you are looking to see the firmware on your camera, you can go to the very last page on the very last. If you go to the very last page of the very last section, you will see firmware, and this will allow you to look at the firmware of your camera and the firmware of your lens. So there's a couple things that's really good for helping you see if everything is up to date on your lenses and on your camera. So now that we've figured out how to shoot in cinema mode, here's what to do if you just want to shoot regular. If you just want to shoot regular video, regular codecs, nothing fancy. Okay guys, so here we are back. So here we are back in our original setting. Now we're going to see what happened. What do I need to change on the camera in order to not shoot in the highest quality? So if I just want to shoot a run and gun video, I just want the picture to look good out of the camera and not fix anything in post. Here's what you would do. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to go right here. Go right here. You actually don't want to shoot in this mode. You actually want to go ahead and shoot in standard. A lot of color you can already see right here. The next thing you want to do, clicking right here, instead of clicking in raw, you want to go ahead and record MP4 422 10-bit. So you're still going to be able to shoot in 4K, and if you don't want to shoot in 4K, you are able to shoot in 1080p or lower. So now that we have that available to us, this is what our image is looking like. We don't really have to worry about colors anymore because the color is already embedded in there, and everything else should be good. Remember, if you want to change your brightness, you just change your ISO and you change your aperture and also your ND filters. This also opens up the possibility of going up to 60 frames per second as well. But to get something good right out of the box with this camera and not having to change anything in post, this is the best settings to use. As a bonus, here's how to shoot in 120 frames per second on the Canon C70. Okay guys, so here's a special bonus. If you want to shoot in 120 frames per second, you actually want to go into your settings, into the menu. You actually want to go right here where it says normal recording, click on slow and fast recording, and you will automatically be able to change this. You'll be able to automatically change this all the way to 120 frames per second. You can see the image is a little bit darker, so I'll have to increase my brightness. That's usually what you have to do when you're shooting in 120. The image gets a little bit darker. But now I am able to shoot in that 120 frames per second with the colors already enabled, so I don't have to do anything in post. So hopefully you guys learned a little bit about how to set up your cinema camera and how to set up your camera in general for shooting these types of videos, and hopefully you learned a little bit about what your camera can do and all the capabilities it has. Not every camera is going to be able to have all these features, but every camera is able to shoot in RAW, every camera is able to shoot in Rec 709, and every camera is able to change frame rates, that for sure. So hopefully that taught you a little bit of how to do that on your camera. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to go ahead and give it a like. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications. Let me know how you set up your Canon C70, and I'll see y'all in the next one. It's Rigo with Grizz Media signing off. Have a great day, guys.